Forstein. And today I am interviewing a man who grew up here in South Dakota, went off to Rapid City, Colorado, and then to, what was this?
Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake City. He came back here, and now he is hosting KDLT News at 6 and 10 with Sherry Kurtz. Today I'm with Tom Hanson. Thanks, Tom, for being
Avi,
here today.
thank you for having me here. It's an honor.
So for people who don't know, will you just give a quick, just brief of yourself, quick bio?
Quick bio, yikes. Born in Phoenix, moved up to South Dakota when I was 3 years old. We lived in Chamberlain, moved to Woonsocket, then I grew up in Mitchell, and went to Mitchell High School and started out at the TV station there in Mitchell, which is now KDLT in Sioux Falls.
So what type of education did you have?
I actually went to college for a business degree.
Really?
Yeah. So
What
I really fell into this kind of like you guys do here at LTV. I went to work for the local TV station as a master control operator, studio TV operator, camera operator, and just got bit by the bug. It's an exciting business, and once you're in it, it's hard to get out.
How did you get bit by the bug? Was there just an incident or a person?
No, I think just being around it, and the excitement of day-to-day news. I don't think there's anything like it. I've been able to do things that I wouldn't have been able to do in a normal job, I guess.
When you were growing up and you started looking into the business, who did you look towards? Who were your role models or people that you really looked up to?
When I was younger, I really liked this anchorman out of New York. His name was Chuck Scarborough, and Chuck worked for NBC Network for a while, I believe, but he was kind of the guy that I wanted to be when I was, in my 20s. And Chuck was this deep voice, down-to-earth anchorman, and when I was younger, I would try and emulate him, and it just didn't come off, of course, when I was that young. But
so you,
I'm a big Brokaw fan.
Really?
Yeah, sure.
Did you ever get to meet him at a time?
Yeah, I've met him, and I was very impressed. A very gracious individual. He came in and he shook every person's hand in that room, because you're not going to walk up to Tom Brokaw and say, "Hi, how are you?" And so that was very nice. And a classy man. He's from South Dakota, knows this place, comes back here, and I think he really cares about this place too. I also like Peter Jennings. I think Peter Jennings is a class act.
What were some interesting things about television back when you started? Compared to today, we've heard a lot of technology changed and all that, but is there anything like you remember that was?
The satellites are probably the biggest thing.
Really?
Right now, yeah. I mean, everything is, it's instant. Back when I started, we didn't have CNN. We didn't have this instant news. Now today, we have a system called Chuck TV, where we can send stuff to the network over phone lines, through computers. Video on demand is another thing we have at KDLT. We're a direct link to the network, and they can send us stuff over the phone lines through computers, and it's there right there. It's amazing.
So, you had high school education in TV.
I went to Black Hills State and Dakota Wesleyan.
For college or high school? How long did you come?
I was at Dakota Wesleyan for a year and at Black Hills State for 3 years.
And you got a degree in
business.
How did you? Now, was that television related or was that just general business? How did you transfer?
I had a communications minor, and I had talked to someone at the time who said, what you need is an education. You need to be a well-rounded individual to be in TV, because you need to know a lot about a lot of different things, or a little about a lot of things. You have to be able to touch on all these different subjects, and that's why today, when kids will ask me, what should I do for college? Should I go to communication? Should I go to journalism? Those are great, but also get a background in either business, political science, history, because they can really help you in this career.
You got your first job, professional announcing job, when you were 12 years old. And I found this line out on your biography, but
Right.
the phrase "last call concession stand" really has a big significance to you. Please, if you could explain that.
I can hear it because I hear my dad saying it, you know, and so I would just emulate my dad.
Where did this?
It was just at the Lakeview Drive-In Theater in Mitchell.
Really?
Yeah, and I can picture it now in the projection room. You go up and you press the button and you push the mic and you go, "Last call concession stand, last call concession stand."
And
and then everybody would come in and get their pop and hot dogs, you know. And
is that when you really got the bug for
I don't
announcing?
really.
Or?
No, that really wasn't it. But I guess I found out I wasn't that shy at that point.
In 1979, you started out at the television station in Mitchell. What was it? It wasn't KDLT back then. It was
The call letters were KXON at the time.
KXON.
Right.
And your first job was a part-time studio cameraman. How did you get that job?
I was going to college, and I was talking with one of my professors, and I said, you know, I probably need to pick up a part-time job. He said, my son's a cameraman out at the local TV station. He says, you're into photography. Why don't you go check that out? And so I did. And went out there and was hired and walked into the studio and went, this is nice.
And you can do it. Did you adapt right away, or did it take some learning?
Yeah, within a year I was on the air.
Really? How did
Yeah.
how did that happen? You don't see that from behind the scenes all the way
No, you know
on.
what it was? It was I think I just was in the right place at the right time. Really, it was luck, because they needed someone to fill in a spot, and I showed enough drive and ambition that they said, let's give Tom a shot. And so at 19 years old, I anchored my first newscast.
Do you remember any what the story was?
Oh yeah, yeah. I was running Master Control at the time, which is I'm running all the commercials and pushing all the buttons, which was one of the jobs I was trying to do. And I had been bugging the news director to teach me how to do the news thing. And so he'd been letting me do what they called late night finals, which were 5-minute newscasts that ran like at 3 in the morning. And they were taped, so they weren't live, which, you know, between live and tape, there's a big difference.
There's a huge difference.
Yeah, there is. And so I had a little bit of training, and they were short-staffed. It was over the holidays. He came into work one day, laryngitis, had lost his voice. This is a true story. Lost his voice, came in and said, I don't think I can go on, Tom. I think you'll have to do it. I was like, all right. Sure, no problem.
Just eager and...
Yep, and I still have that tape.
Were you nervous at all, or...?
Oh, I was so scared. I was so scared, yeah.
But you went on and...
My voice was way up here like this.
Now, you later on, you did news, and then you did sports, too. Did you ever do weather, or...?
Yeah.
So you've covered pretty much everything of local television. What's the difference between all three?
Weather, I was terrible at. I was not good. I was not a good weatherman. Well, first of all, you need to know what you're doing in the weather, and it's hard to talk about stuff that you don't really know about, you know? So you get this basic education from a meteorologist on, you know, what does what, and weather is all ad-libbing. So you really have to have everything planned out in your head, or you really have to know what you're doing. That's why Brian Bledsoe can just go boom, 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 boom. He would take the whole half hour if we'd let him.
Was that in the time when you had a green screen, or did you have to do like an actual map and then magnets and markers?
Yeah. One map was magnets where you threw the yellow sun up and the clouds, and it stuck. Another one, which I hated, was you actually drew on the map with magic marker.
Oh.
Yeah, it was bad.
Were you a good drawer?
No.
Oh, what about sports? What was... You know, sports is still news, but people always think it's lighter, you know, because it's not like real serious news. But there is still, you know, the same things, you know, timelines and you know, unexpected stuff can happen, especially like with a team upset or something.
I love sports, but I think you really have to be a sports junkie, a sports nut, to be a sports director on TV, because you need to know all those little, you know, so-and-so batted, you know, he hit 230 back in 1982, or you know what I mean, those type of things. And I'm just not that crazy about all sorts of sports. I love certain sports, and when it came to like football and stuff like that, I was having fun. But you've really got to be a sports nut like Mark Ovanid.
And the news was just now news at the time. How was local news here in South Dakota? Sometimes there isn't any, and you really got to dig deep. Was that hard to do, or was there?
No, because really what you do is you just cover a day in the life of the community. Whatever's going on is going to be of interest. Whether it's who's getting parking tickets to, if the president's coming to town. It's all relative, I think.
Why did you decide to go into television and not radio? Did you ever do radio? Have you?
I was one of those rare people that never really did radio. It used to be, it isn't anymore, but it used to be a natural progression. You would go start out radio and then move on to TV.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I just never had the opportunity. I was in TV and I was able to stay right in TV.
Is there something you like about TV more than radio, or?
No, there's actually something I like about radio more than TV. You can have more fun with radio.
Really?
Oh yeah, they can't see you.
So
Can't see
you went off to college. You came. You went to KXON,
Mm-hmm.
but then you left. Any particular reason that you fled out of the state? Did you want? I have to ask. Did you want out of the state? Because there are some journalists. I mean, after being here for a while, they just can't stand the state. Did you just?
No, it just really got to the point where I'd done just about everything I wanted to do, and an offer came along. And it was just, it's hard to say why, but money, career opportunity, those all came into play at the same time. And
what's Colorado?
Colorado Springs?
Colorado Springs and then Salt Lake City. How are those? I guess first of all, what were those like? Were they?
They're both very, very beautiful cities.
What did you do out there? Were you general?
I was the main anchor. Yeah. Colorado Springs reminds me of Sioux Falls in many ways. Colorado Springs is a city of about 180,000, growing very fast. So it's probably about 10 years ahead of Sioux Falls in a lot of things like growth and population.
And then Salt Lake City. I mean, that's one of the big cities.
Yeah, Salt Lake City was big, and
what were those?
Salt Lake City. When I decided to leave Salt Lake City, it was a very poignant moment. It took me an hour and 45 minutes to drive 15 miles.
Wow.
Yeah. The only way that's going to happen in South Dakota is in a blizzard. So.
Was there a lot?
Traffic was just horrible.
Oh.
Yeah.
Was news different out there because it was a bigger city?
Yeah.
Was there more
more crime?
Really? Was
More
there
gangs?
any just? At one point, did you just get fed up with it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You just couldn't. See
Yeah,
it
was just
and then you
okay.
kicked
This
out.
is enough. This is enough. And.
So you left Salt Lake City. You came back here. As I read in your biography, you liked that because you didn't like feeling like you didn't belong there. It wasn't your home state. You liked that feel, so you came back here. What was your whole feeling for coming back? What was?
It's hard to describe, but when I come back to South Dakota, I know things that I didn't know in those other states. I mean, I know where all these small towns are. I know where Letcher is, and Ulrichs, and Edgemont, and Bowdle, and Hosmer, and I know where all these places are. I knew Governor Mickelson, Governor Knipe. I know those. I know the history of the state, the names. So.
Well,
it's a comforting feeling. I don't know how else I can explain it to you.
I think right. I mean,
home is home.
Home is home. That's right. Well, I got a lot of questions here for you about just certain different things. I got a quote here. Someone said to me that when you do a report, the best thing you want to do is be completely neutral as possible, but sometimes you try to be so neutral that you destroy the story. Would you Would you agree or disagree with that?
I would disagree.
How much of a...
Well, say you've got two sides to an issue. Your job is to represent both sides of that issue, bring both points out, and really let people decide.
Have you ever been criticized for doing a report? What,
oh yeah.
What do you do with that when someone calls in and says you were one-sided with this?
You go back and look at it. You really do. And you go, was I really? And sometimes you may find yourself going, maybe I was wrong. If you can't admit you're wrong in this business, then you don't belong here, because we're human. Everybody makes mistakes, and it's the old adage of you make a mistake, then you learn from it.
What's been one of the biggest stories you've ever had to do? Just if someone asked you to name the most important or interesting story you've had to do, what's the one that sticks in your mind?
There are a lot just jumping into my brain right now. The ones that affected me the most, I was working as a correspondent for Fox at the time, and they sent me to Haiti.
Wow, that's
yeah, we went to Port-au-Prince, which is the capital of Haiti, and we went to a slum called Cité Soleil. An American woman was setting up an orphanage, a medical clinic, and an adoption agency. And walking around this slum where it's corrugated buildings, not even buildings, corrugated shacks made out of corrugated tin, a huge canal running through the middle of the slum, and that's where everybody went to the bathroom. So there was no plumbing, no lights, and people are living like this, and that really gave me a different perspective on home. I got back to the airport in Miami and just about bent down and kissed the ground. And it was scary, too, because we saw some UN peacekeepers, and it was like, hey guys, come hang out with us.
Wow, I mean, that's...
Yeah, yeah.
I hate... How do you deal with that? I mean, every day you have a different news story, and, doing a story in Haiti and then, having to do just something about the mayor's budget. How do you switch gears? How do you adjust?
You just have to do it. You just have to switch gears, and I think that's where, in our business, you have to have some common sense. You got to be able to look at a situation and decide, what do people want to know about it. What I do is I put myself at home on my couch, and I imagine, what would I want to know about this story?
What's the hardest thing about your job?
I think the hardest part is it's dealing with tragedy and trying not to be affected by it. And actually, it was a South Dakota Highway Patrolman who taught me a lesson a long, long time ago. And we would cover accidents, and we'd roll up on these accidents, and these highway patrolmen were, sometimes they'd be joking, and I was offended. I was, why are you, And it's a defense mechanism. It's a psychological defense mechanism. They deal with this day in, day out. They see it day in, day out, and they pull back from it. But it's like Plankington. Sherry Kurtz and I both went to Plankington the day after the explosion, and you could just see it in the people's faces there. It was a tragedy. It was you could feel the sadness in that community, the shock.
Besides the Plankington one, has there ever been one, here in South Dakota where you've had to just stand back and look at it for a minute before you can even digest it?
Yeah, there have been.
What other ones are there?
A 12-year-old boy who ran his go-kart under a semi. There are so many others that I really don't even.
You can't think of them.
Yeah, I just kind of shut them out, I guess.
The lighter side, what's been the one story that you've truly loved doing? I wouldn't say one subject, but just there's one that you were so proud of. If you ever like think, God, I want to quit this business, you always think of that one story that you're very proud of.
Yeah, there are actually a couple. There are climbing on top of Mount Rushmore. Standing up there in Washington.
What was that like?
It was a rush. It was fun. Now I look up. Whenever I see a picture of Mount Rushmore, I think of Washington's head and me sitting up there. It's very windy up there, by the way. Flying a fighter jet, driving a tank, meeting some of the movers and shakers of this country, seeing Congress in action in Washington, D.C., that type of thing.
Of course, whenever you talk to a person in the news, you always want to know their mistakes. So what's been the biggest flub that's ever, I guess, on or off the camera, what's been the biggest flub that you've ever done?
My most embarrassing moment by far is years ago there was a TV show called Solid Gold, and it was a dance show, and they would have people mouth songs or sing songs, and we were supposed to sing White Christmas, and my co-anchor and I at the time were singing in front of Mount Rushmore, and so we started singing White Christmas, and I cannot sing. I cannot sing. We started singing, and everybody in the audience, I mean, half the people were on the ground rolling around and laughing. The cameraman actually had to stop shooting. He was laughing so hard. You
decided
sad.
Not to sing ever again?
No. No. Go ahead and ask me to sing.
Go ahead, say it.
No.
What's the weirdest thing that's ever happened to you on air? Or not just that, but like the weirdest story too. Just a time where you actually had to just go, what?
Man, you got me there. I can't think of anything.
What happens when something weird happens? Like a missed typo, or someone, as a joke, put in a line that said, "Hi, how you doing?" When you're reading a tragic story or something, what do you?
Yeah, when you're reading a tragic story, you just plow through. You keep going, because you don't make fun of a situation like that. But if it's during a light story, you have fun with it. You roll with it. Because the people at home know. They're not dumb. They know. They see what's going on. So you share it with them, and we're all human. If we wanted robots up there, giving us the news, then we'd have them by now.
Yeah. How have you felt? Election 2000 came, and we knew it was going to be. It was a close election, but there were a lot of media screw-ups. All the networks said, like they called Florida for Gore, then retracted it. Then they said Governor Bush was president. Then they retracted that. What do you think it was 100% of the all the media's fault for this, or what's your opinion on the whole election 2000?
It boils down to competition. It really does. CNN and Fox have come through, and I think they've given NBC, ABC, and CBS network news a real run for their money. And they got caught up. And I think they've learned a lesson.
What's one of the biggest problems network news faces against cable news, or 24-hour, or even the internet news as well?
It's just tougher competition. And you'll notice that some of the cable outlets like Fox and CNN, but especially Fox, a lot of the network correspondents that used to work for ABC, CBS, and NBC are now working for CNN and Fox. So
what's it like working?
They're integrating. They really are.
They're mixing in?
Yeah.
Do you now KDLT? They have something like that where they use the internet as well. Like you have webcasts. Is that a smart idea? Do you think it's good that TV and the internet are mixing together?
It's coming. It's coming. It's it's just a matter of time before we're on the internet on our TV in our living room, and there's no doubt in my mind. So, they will be mixed.
What's the atmosphere at KDLT like? in the newsroom?
Yeah, we have fun.
Do you like the people that you work with?
I honestly can say this. I've never worked with a group of people I have more fun working with. Sherry, Mark, and Brian are just a joy to work with. They're fun, and we really do get along, and I think people can really see that.
If you weren't a news anchor, what would you be?
Ooh, good question. That is tough. I used to think that I would probably have been in law enforcement.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Here's a question we got lots of, and if you don't want to give me an exact answer, that's okay. But do you make lots of money? I think that's probably.
In this business, you can.
Really?
How's that?
Is it national, local wise? Is it easy to make a lot, or do you really have to?
It's okay. Did you really think you were going to get me to answer that one? I
hadn't a clue. You'd be surprised what the answers we could get. What is one goal? Here's a big one we also got. What's one goal that you want to have accomplished before you retire?
I'd like to work for a #1 station.
Really?
Yeah.
Like nationally or locally or just?
Sure.
All right. Well, we have a few minutes left. I guess one of the big things that sticks out in my mind is just that, what do you see in the future for local television news? Do you see it moving upward? Do you see it moving down? What's the direction of local news?
I think local
in the future.
I think local news will be around.
Will it change for the
the
better?
national
or for the
newscasts
worse,
they're gonna have a harder time.
Really?
Than we are, yeah. Because more and more people are going to tune into local news, #1, to get the local stuff. But with all the technology now, we can provide at least a link to more national news. A lot easier than it used to be. So I think local news will continue to grow.
Final question. Do you like being the news guy?
Yeah.
Do you like being the news anchor?
Sure.
What's the great thing about being the news guy?
I get to come and do interviews with you. If I wasn't the news guy, I wouldn't be here right now, would I?
That is true.
Yeah, yeah. So it's fun, and it's fun being a part of the community.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Tom, I thank you for joining us today.
Avi, thank you for having me.
And as always, I thank you at home for watching us. I'm Avi Forstein, and I thank you for joining us on Face to Face, and I hope to see you for our next edition. Until then, I'm Avi Forstein. Good night.